And wait until it starts recording. I never know exactly. I think we're good to go. So hello, everybody out there. I am your host, Eric Smith. We're going to jump right into my favorite horror with the author of The Adversary Cycle, the Repairman Jack series, bunch of other stuff. It's F. Paul Wilson. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right. Thank you for being here.
Oh, glad to.
Now, these were just the three handiest copies of your books that I had right there, and I wanted a little mix of everything. But I love this particular cover. I tried to get everything I could with that.
Yeah, they
edition.
They did. That was a motif that they did for Repairman Jack, and then they put it on the other books as well.
Yeah, the only thing, just as someone with a little, I hate to say OCD, but all of my Repairman Jacks except for one are the mass market paperback size. And then all of my Adversary books and The Last Christmas are all the trade paperback size. And it bugs me just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think they did Night World in mass market. I don't think.
I have one in mass market. I
you
don't know
do?
if
Okay.
I don't know if it's like the definitive edition or anything, and we'll sort of get to that sort of thing. But yeah, I have, so my Repairman Jacks are all up on one shelf, and then there's a stack. I'm kind of no one can see what I'm actually pointing at. There's a stack of all the other books that I have of yours, the Adversary Cycle and some of the other ones. So basically, what I wanted to talk about first was the secret history of the world.
Okie dokes.
So I decided one day to start a video series where I was going to read through everything I could that's listed in the secret history of the world. I'm going by what's in the back of Signals.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a list in story chronology, which, of course, is what you have in the back of here. Now, the oldest story that I had at the time was The Keep. So that's where I started.
Okay.
And I just finished Panacea.
Okay. All right.
And I actually have a list on my phone of everything else.
Towards the end.
So hopefully I have these dates right. Your first novel was Healer, is that correct?
Yeah, 1976.
Okay, and then you had things like An Enemy of the State, and then The Keep, The Tomb, all of these books. At what point did you decide to make this sort of cohesive secret history?
The first inkling was when Berkeley contracted me to do a sequel to The Keep, and that was Reborn. And actually, when I plotted it out, it was a 1,000-page novel, and so that wasn't going to fly. So I turned it into Reborn, Reprisal, and Night World. And as I was writing Night World, it occurred to me that, as I was plotting it out, that I could bring in Alan Bulmer from The Touch, and I could bring in Jack from The Tomb, and I could just put them all together in this big finale. And I said, that works for me. So, but the first three books, the Keep, The Tomb, The Touch, were never intended to be connected. To me, they were all standalone novels until I started doing the sequel, and then things started. My mind works like that because I've always loved future histories. Heinlein's future history has always been a favorite of mine, and so, and then that was it. By 1992, when Night World came out, horror was pretty much dead, and I started doing some medical thrillers. I did the Select and Implant and Deep as a Marrow, and the final book on my medical thriller contract, I was sick of medical thrillers by then, so I came up with what became Legacies. And this guy, Repairman Jack, was the perfect hero for it. So I did that, and I made a Dr. Hiram. That was supposedly, medical thriller.
Right.
And it sold really well. And the publisher said, do another one with this guy. I said, okay, one more. And I did conspiracies. I had such fun doing conspiracies. I mean, I went out to Laughlin, Nevada to a conspiracy convention, and I had, the time of my life researching this book. And I said, this is so much fun. Says, I'm going to commit to 3 more. And then, I just took over my writing career, which is why I didn't, why I stopped Repairman Jack at the end of the Tomb, because I knew he was a series character and I didn't want to do a series,
Right.
But eventually, I gave into it. I'm glad I did. I really had fun with Jack. And the way I had set up this series is that because I've been genre hopping all my life. I did science fiction, I did horror, I did medical thrillers, I did historical thrillers, even religious thrillers. And Jack allowed me to do anything I wanted. I could do a haunted house, I could do a high tech, I could do anything I wanted, as long as Jack is the hero, the marketing department's happy, the readers are happy, and I'm happy. So it was a perfect solution.
Great. Well, let's see. I'm again looking at my Repairman Jack books, and I'm maybe halfway through as I do this read through. And I mean, I love conspiracies because I love reading about conspiracies. So that's, you throw that in with a character like Repairman Jack, and I'm happy. And
yeah, I'm a sucker for conspiracies too. I mean, the crazier the better. I mean, QAnon is a bit. I can't latch onto that. I can't really figure that one out. But the thing I like is that every conspiracy theory has a smidgen of truth at its core, and finding it in QAnon is a little hard. But let's face it, it has all to do. It has a lot to do with pedophiles, and the in the U.S. government, and the government employs 20 million people. So even if half of 1% are pedophiles, you're talking 10,000 pedophiles. So it's that, but the rest of it makes no sense. It just makes no sense to me. But whatever turns you on.
Excuse me. Let's see, and then the Haunted Heir, is that the one with the brothers?
Yes.
That are okay. Just wanted to make sure. It's been a little while since I read that one. Loved them. Thought they were great characters.
That was a lot of fun.
And as you said, you're doing so many different things. You've got monsters in the Tomb, and then you've got genetics and things, and the conspiracies, and then haunted houses and cults.
Yeah, anything
and
I
all
want
these
to write
great
about.
things. So now you already mentioned that you had written The Keep and the Tomb, and then eventually Night World. So you filled in a lot of stuff between sort of the beginning and the end, gone back and filled things in. Is that difficult to do, to slot these stories into place?
Well, when I decided to commit to Jack, I said it's a closed end series. It's going to loop out from the Tomb and end at Night World. I was going to have to rewrite Night World because Jack has such a bigger part to play in the secret history than he did before. And And then all the other stories started fitting themselves in. Black Wind started fitting itself in, which I brought that into with By the Sword. Um, I did the teenage books, and then I brought Wheezy from the teenage books into Fatal Error. Not Fatal Error, Ground Zero. And so it became a mosaic, and it was such fun to play with. It's hard. It's hard to keep track of some of this stuff. I really don't have a compendium of it all, but there is a reader who put one on the online. He obsessively went through every one of the books and did chapter breakdowns and character breakdowns and everything. So I often go back to that to refresh, what's going on.
I was going to ask if you had one of like those conspiracy boards with the red strings pointing to all the different things.
Well, in the early days of the Repairman Jack website, we had it was very simple then because there weren't that many books. And so one of my readers had put it up, and it was a bit of a plate of spaghetti. And as things went on, it just became, finally I said, this is crazy because you can't follow the lines anymore. So this connected to this, and then went back to that one. And, so I eventually took it down. But you really can't do that anymore unless you have a huge wall because, we're talking, I don't know how many books now are in the Secret History, but there are really quite a few. And yes. The connections are, and people say, how do you do it? And I say, I really don't know. I really don't know how I do it. But I said, well, this guy is connected to this guy. And I make a connection because it just is fun for me. And it's really great. Readers love it too. If all of a sudden they say, hey, that's the guy that was in that book, and so, it's like this eureka moment for you. Because I know I've had that when I was a teenager, I was reading Robert A. Heinlein's books, and all of a sudden I said, wait a minute, that guy was in that other story. I said, oh, cool. And Lovecraft did the same thing. The Whately family would turn up here and there, and, those kind of things they're just fun.
Well, I kind of had that moment myself when I was reading Panacea, and hopefully I'm saying that correctly.
You are.
Because right off the bat, of course, there's talk of the All-Mother, which I had already read that, and reading the Fifth Harmonic, that's a big part of that. And then a mention of the Dormentalists. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But you literally have the main character from Panacea cross with, I'm trying to avoid spoilers for people who haven't read all.
He opens the box and there's a gun from this sporting shop in New York.
Well, actually, I was thinking of at the airport when Laura Fanning runs into the doctor who's going to Mesoamerica because.
Oh, from the Fifth Harmonic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you literally have the characters cross over in the airport. I was like, that's great. And I just read that one, so I actually remember it. Yeah, and Box from New York, of course. Now, you mentioned going back and rewriting Night World. But I've read The Tomb 3 times now, I believe. And the first time I read it was an earlier edition, and now I have the author's definitive edition. And so I believe you updated things. I think in the original edition he's watching VHS, and now he's watching Blu-ray.
The original edition was moored in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to unhook it from the 80s. No more references to Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show and things like that. Also, the description of Times Square, originally Disney was still years away from coming to Times Square. So now, it's been Disneyfied. So I just tried. There are certain types of books like The Keep, which are solidly moored in a certain time period.
Absolutely.
And that's great if you can do that because they don't get any older. But with something like Jack, where it's an evolving thing, where he's getting a little older as time goes on and so on, you want to be a little more fluid with that. I didn't realize it at the time, as I said, because the original book was a standalone.
Right.
So, but as I realized it's going to be part of this ongoing series, I sort of learned my lesson and just.
Now, is that something that's difficult to do, to go in there and find all the things that you need to change?
Not really, because I really wanted to read. It had been over 10 years since I had last edited the book, and my writing style had changed. I had evolved to a certain point where I was a much cleaner writer. I had more faith in my readers that I didn't have to explain everything, and there was a lot of what I call pleonasms that I didn't realize at the time. But as I'm reading through, she fell trailing smoke and flames behind her. Well, you can't trail anything in front of you, so behind her,
right,
got ditched. But I found little things like that all the way through that annoyed the hell out of me, and I had to change it. And that and removing it from the 80s. Yeah, so I mean, I really did a close line edit. So I think I caught all the 80s references and stuff.
Well, I mean, Jack is such a wonderful character, and I love his love of old things. I get excited, like I believe in, I don't remember which book, but it mentions he has a Doc Savage membership card or something like that. I'm a huge fan of the old pulps and Doc Savage, and I'm just like, oh, I wish I had one of those. That would be so great.
I don't have one, but I do have the old pulps. I would go through them and I would see them, join the Doc Savage Club, get this badge, get this membership card, get this plaque, like something like that, which is not a Doc Savage thing, but it's you could put something like that on your wall. And same with the shadow. Get the ring and all that.
I used to have cassettes of some of the old radio shows, and I had some Dick Tracy and the Shadow, and one of my favorite things was the old ads. And with the Dick Tracy, it had the Dick Tracy Jr. thing at the end where they would give you the secret code. So if you had the ring, you could, decode the secret message from Dick Tracy Jr. I loved that stuff.
Well, I do have the Little Orphan Annie, code that was in A Christmas Story. I have a bunch of those, and they're really quite good. I mean, if you can, just somebody else knows where you're starting, it's a really good code, because if you don't know where you're starting, it's really hard to break. I'm sure computers now can break it, but it's very clever code.
Now, were there any other books at all that you had to go through and sort of update or make major, or even minor-ish changes to?
Oh, there were minor things I would go through just for continuity, because they weren't supposed to be connected originally. So
right.
I would throw in a reference to another, even a short story or something like that, just to connect them to the bigger picture. But nothing really major that I had to do anywhere, except in basically in the tomb. And Night World, of course. Night World, I cut out 10,000 words, and it wound up 10,000 words longer. So, I mean, so there was, the revision had 20,000 new words in it.
I'm gonna have to search out an old copy of Night World then.
I read this is the original one. That original paperback came out. Let me see, what's the date? 92, I believe. 93. So
I'm gonna have to, like I said, I'll read the edition that I have first, but I'd love to go back and read the old one, see what the differences are.
Oh, it just Jack is a minor player in, and the whole thing of Abe, G, and Vicky out in Pennsylvania in Abe's hideaway, that's totally missing. There's a whole lot of characters that are just I've added back in.
Well, speaking of characters, you break my heart sometimes.
Oh yeah.
with what you do to some of these characters. Do you find it, again, I'm trying to avoid bits of spoilers, but there are certain characters that die. Do you find it difficult to kill off these characters? Are they there? Did you know when you started that, yes, this person's going to die by the end of this story? I know there's the old saying, kill your darlings.
I know where every story is going before I write it. I don't know the exact path that's going to take me there, but I know where it's going. And, good characters, sometimes I have to kill them, but they have a good death. I killed Poppy in Deep as a Marrow, and that was before the internet, or the internet was really big. But boy, did I get letters. People were really angry, and because it hurt me to do it. But I said that was her arc. That's the way she was headed, and but she had a good death. So to me, that's very important. But it does hurt sometimes. I get a little verklempt when I'm writing the scenes.
There's one thing. Let me see if I can figure out which book it was. Try to remember. Let's see. I don't remember if it's in Infernal or Harbingers.
What is it?
See, I'm trying to. There is a death that's horrible, but I love that you were brave enough to do it.
No, I know which one you mean. That's in Harbingers.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
with a truck accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tell you the truth, I didn't know what to do about that situation.
Did you write yourself into a corner?
Yeah. And well, sometimes I do that. I mean, it started in Haunted Air, and I had a way. I figured out a whole solution how he could do this, and then I said, "Wait a minute, well, Harbingers is a real turning point. You can read the first 9 books in almost any order, but you should read them before you read Harbingers, because Harbingers is a game changer, because that's when you really realize what's going on, and that certain things that you were depending on you really shouldn't be depending on them, because they've got their own agenda and you ain't part of it, or you're part of it, but your agenda has nothing to do with theirs. And so that's a game-changing book. And then once you read that, then you can go on and read the others. You probably should read them in order. I mean, it's best, it's best to read them in order. But as I said, the first 9, they're all pretty much standalone. So, but Harbingers, wait and see.
That's why I went with the list in the back of Signals. And just like I said, I took them. I made a list on my phone in story chronology. And I think I have most. Let's see. I started with the Keep. So I'm gonna have when I get to Night World in my video series, I'm gonna go back and read Black Wind and Wardenclyffe. I have both of those, but I didn't get them till after I started the series. I have.
It wouldn't be a bad idea to read Wardenclyffe before you read Signals. Just for some references. Not that it's necessary, but people really like the references that one referred back to the other.
All right, I'll see if I can fit that in. Then I'll add that to the list. And I have quick fixes and secret stories, but I couldn't figure out how to. Since some of those it's like a novel, then a short story, then a novel in the list. Figured I'd stick with the novels and then go back.
Secret Stories has Demon Song, which is the very first. And then it has other things like Arians and Absinthe and things like that, which, again, they add, they add to the characters that as you're reading them later on.
And some of those are in here, which I just got this the other day. It does have a lot of things that I have in other books, but when I saw it had Sex Slaves of the Dragon Tongue and part of the game, I knew I had to have this. I have I'm always pointing at things that no one can see. I have a complete set of the Fu Manchu books.
Oh, really?
And yeah, Titan, I think it was Titan Books.
Yes.
Put out a beautiful set.
Yeah.
And so I picked all of those up. I became a fan after becoming a fan of the comic book Master of Kung Fu, Shang-Chi. And that introduced me to Fu Manchu and Sir Dennis Nayland Smith. And I had to go and read the books that they were based on.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are really good. I mean, they get a little crazy later on, but the first 3 are really, great Yellow Peril mysteries.
Yes. And then, so is that what you were trying to do with Sex Slaves of the Dragon Tongue and part of the game?
Yeah.
Capture that feeling?
Yeah, but I mean, Joe Lansdale called me up and said, I'm doing a collection called, anthology called Retro Pulp, and do you want to do a story? I said, yep. Only a Yellow Peril story. And he said, you got it. And so, I decided I had to include Fu Manchu. But I didn't name him. And I had to introduce, another Titan of the times. And there were some people did not get it. But I remember, what was it? A magazine, I think it was called Pulpgasm or something. They did a review and they got it, and they got the whole thing.
Nice.
Because I had, his henchmen, and I mean, it was, and then I did part of the game for Dark Delicacies, the bookstore. They were doing an anthology, and they said, well, it's Dark Delicacies. So I think, food, eat. Oh, okay. I've already got a little piece of that. And then I finally completed the trilogy with the Dragon Tongue. And that one I used the Continental Op.
Okay.
Dashiell Hammett's Continental Op in Chinatown. I didn't, he doesn't have a name, so it was okay. I could just.
Those might be the Continental Op books. Might be the first thing I ever read where the main character didn't have a name.
Yeah, yeah. Bill Ponzini did The Nameless Detective, but yeah, he was just the op.
Yeah. Yeah, I've read some of the Ponzini. I have a list of every book I've read since 1985, and I think I was in the service and I spent a year in Iceland, and I think it was the library on the base in Iceland had a bunch of the Nameless Detective Ponzini books, and so I read quite a few while I was up in Iceland.
What were you doing in Iceland? I love Iceland. It's got to be one of the coolest places on earth.
Oh, it was wonderful. I was in the Air Force, so I was stationed there for a year.
So there's an Air Force base there? I didn't know that.
I don't think it's there anymore. This was back in '89, and it was actually it was a Navy base with Marines stationed there and Air Force security. So I worked security.
Well, you can see why the Vikings would have stopped there and settled there, because, I mean, here we are, it's way up north, there's ice all over the place, and we got hot water.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an amazing place. Incredibly expensive, but amazing. But yeah, I was reading, like I said, I read the Nameless Detective books while I was up there. Actually, I think that's where I discovered Richard Stark and the Parker books, which I have a complete set of those now. Surprisingly, found a lot of good things while I was in Iceland.
And you do have OCD.
Oh, I want it all. And I actually like the set of Parker books. They're all the same edition. I like the way they look on the shelf.
Sure.
All right, let's see. What else? Well, I feel like I'm forgetting something I wanted to ask about the Secret History. I did want to mention how much I enjoyed the Fifth Harmonic and the fact that there's no antagonist unless you count time.
That's a kinder, gentler me.
Okay.
I don't kill anybody.
Yeah.
But had a hell of a time selling it. My agent, publishers didn't say, they said, how are we going to sell this? And so finally he found a new age publisher in Virginia, and they published it. I'm very proud of the book. I think it's a really good story, but it's not quite my usual.
Well, I really enjoyed it. I love the scene in the rainstorm when he goes up into the pyramid and all the animals.
Oh yes, and that happens. That I'd read someone who was in a jungle hut, and it was pouring rain and teeming, and these animals came in and they all sat together, and nobody attacked. They didn't attack each other.
Yeah,
there was predator and prey, and then when the storm finally ended, they left. And this guy's just sitting going, like that. So I don't know if it's true or not, but it was too good not to steal. So
yeah, absolutely a great scene, and it moves at a nice pace, and of course your writing is so good, and the characters are so good that I was almost finished with it before I realized there was no antagonist. Because I think in a different author's hands there'd be somebody after them, or someone trying to reach the goal before them, but there's none of that. It's just basically him against time.
Yeah, well, the antagonist is inside him.
Well, yes.
So that's really what it is, and he has to defeat that. So and escape that. Yeah, it's and the thing is, he has my mindset. I mean, I don't think I've ever. That's as close to me as you'll find in a book. But he has my mindset. He's totally skeptical. I just don't believe this bullshit. But I've got no other choice. I'm going to just go. I'm going with it, And so,
I actually felt that way when I was reading it, and I may have mentioned it in my review that I said, this guy's like me. If I don't have hard evidence, if I haven't witnessed it with my own ears and eyes, then I don't believe it. Hard science. Yeah, I really liked that character, and I like that, but I love fantastical fiction. So I'm not, I don't turn on the character because he becomes a believer. That's what I want to see in the story.
mm-hmm.
Whether or not I believe it, I can believe that characters believe it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, I went through that in The Touch with, and now I can't think of his name, the neurologist who has a daughter with kidney failure, and he fights, doesn't want to believe this is happening, but guess what? It's happened.
I read The Touch a long time ago. Let me see. I'm looking at the list on my phone.
Charles something.
And I have three more things to read before I get to The Touch. According to my list, the next up I have The God Gene, then By the Sword, then Ground Zero, and then The Touch.
Where's the Void Protocol in there somewhere?
Void Protocol is right after The Touch.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't remember that I had read it until I do another video series where every week I go through this list of books that I have for everything I've read since 1985. And I think sometime this year, the Touch was on there. It was on the list of things that I've read. I'm actually up to July of 1993 is the video that went up today.
Oh, geez.
So every week I do a video for a month that's on this list. So next week will be August of 1993. And I love revisiting just all the stuff. There's so many things I don't remember reading from way back then. And The Touch was one of them, but it'll be nice to get to reread it.
Yeah, that's one of the recurring motifs is the miracle cure.
Mm-hmm.
That runs through a lot of my work. So,
all right. Before we get to talking about The Exorcist, just a couple more things, sort of general questions about you. Currently, are there any new authors, any new books that you've read that really stuck with you, made an impression?
I mean, I like Sean Ann McGuire's Wayward Children stories.
Mm-hmm.
I love Martha Wells' Murderbots. Those are just excellent science fiction. Scalzi's last trilogy, The Interdependency, or I'm terrible with titles, but his last trilogy, I just had a great time with it. It was, just great science fiction.
Is that the one with Locked In? That one?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. So that might be the last thing I read by Scalzi was Locked In.
This is a trilogy. Let me see. So Martha Wells. If you haven't read the Murderbot stuff, yeah, do it.
It's been on my radar. I haven't gotten to it.
I start a lot of books and stop them because they just don't they don't grab me or they're overwritten or I'll read a Reacher now and again, and let me see what I'm trying to just remember what's on my Kindle because I have a Kindle 3 and that's the old Kindle, but I like it because the battery goes on forever. and it doesn't tell you what you're reading, you know.
Mhm.
So you start off, you know the title, when you start off, but by the time you're, 20, 30% into the book, you've forgotten the title. So, uh, ah,
I need to read Jack Reacher. The only Jack Reacher I've ever read is the story that's in Face Off,
oh,
which also has Repairman Jack teaming
yeah,
up with the Heather Graham character.
right. And
But I don't
Madame
remember.
de Medici.
And I picked that book up because it had Repairman Jack and it had Pendergast from Lincoln and Child.
Yeah, I think we were also in Thriller, that anthology that where Interluded Dwayne's was, um,
Okay.
which we were all asked to do, one Thriller short story, and I got a lot of new Repairman Jack fans from that. We contributed for free, and all the money goes to Thriller writers and supports them, so because there's no dues for Thriller writers, and got a lot of new readers from that because there are a lot of people there who had never heard of Jack, but it was a good story, and they started looking him up. So,
Well, that's one of the things I love about anthologies is discovering new characters, new authors.
yeah, that's how I discovered Lovecraft. It was in Macabre by Donald Walheim, and The Thing on the Doorstep was there, and I read that. It just blew my mind. Who is this guy, and where's Arkham? I want to go to visit Arkham. He convinced me that it existed. I was like 13 at the time, but you know, um, and I said, well, anyway, I said, well, geez, Miskatonic University, maybe I want to go there. So, so
I
I looked it
love
up, and it wasn't in the college university manual.
way back. Well, back in the '80s, I bought this little package that had a diploma from Miskatonic University, as well as a bumper sticker, a parking pass, and a college T-shirt.
Or T-shirt too.
Yeah,
Nice. Nice.
which is about 4 sizes too small now.
I
But
see he's got a Jack Kirby T-shirt on there.
I thought the demon would be appropriate to wear
Yeah.
for this. Um, do you read any sort of the modern Lovecraftian stuff, or do you stick with the originator?
I mean, I know I don't read Lovecraft anymore. I mean, I read them all back in the day. Um, uh, I like cosmic horror. I mean, that is to me. I mean, I looked at there's two kinds of horror. There's what I call Abrahamic horror, which is basically based on the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Quran, and whatever. Um, and in that, we are intrinsically valuable because of our souls and because we're valuable to the Creator. So that makes us targets for, the opposing force, the demons, the Satans, whatever. Um, and that was basically what all horror was until Lovecraft and Macon came along and introduced materialism, and all of a sudden, um, we're just in the way a lot of times,
Yes.
and so we are not the object of the forces of evil. We are collateral damage most of the time. And that's what I tried, in the secret history. That's basically the whole secret history is these intrusive cosmic entities that are playing with us. Because as I go on in Panacea, sapience is rare in
Right.
the universe, and at least we can say in the galaxy. I mean, there's a lot of steps you have to go through to get to our point in the civilization, and you really don't realize until you actually think about it, how tough it is to start from this single eukaryotic cell and come to where we are. And there's something called the Drake equation, which it figures out. I don't know how many they do the fraction of planets which can hold life and all that kind of stuff. And it's a really complex equation, but it comes out like 20 planets.
Right.
I mean, because not only do you have to, the planet has to be in the Goldilocks zone, where water doesn't freeze all the time and it's not boiling away, but it has to be around a stable star that's not flaring and burning off. It has to have an iron core that creates a magnetosphere, which deflects all the solar winds. I mean, you think about it, I mean, most of the stars out there in our galaxy are red dwarfs and red giants, which are not hospitable. There's really your Goldilocks zone around them is you're going to get fried every time it burps. So I mean, and there's one fascinating thing I read. I don't want to bore you with this, but that the mitochondria, the so-called powerhouse of the cell, it didn't originate in the cell. It's an ingested bacterium with totally different DNA than the cell, and it never was digested. So it sits there and produces ATP, which allows the cell to do all sorts of other things and expand and multiply. And how the hell does that happen? Yeah. I mean, you can say intelligent design, but screw it. I mean, if you want to make intelligent design, then you should have had an ATP source in the first place.
Right.
So what? So anyway, that's the kind of crap that has to happen and work from, and you don't wipe yourself out, somewhere along the line. So it's so anyway, so that's why we are attracted to the cosmic horrors, because we are sapient and we actually made it, and so now they can play with us. It's not that they love us. It's not that they hate us. It's now they can play with us. And so that that's the whole thrust of the secret history, is that we've been manipulated. We are.
Well, I love the way Rick Hayden talks about it.
Yeah, Rick. Yeah, Rick. Actually, I almost didn't write Panacea because I couldn't make myself believe in a panacea. I just couldn't do it. If I can't sell it to myself, how am I going to sell it to you? And then one night I'm lying there, trying to get to sleep, and Rick starts talking. He's sitting around the campfire, which never happened in the thing, but he sits and he starts talking about intrusive cosmic entities and how they're playing with us, and that a panacea could exist because they're just going to throw it in and see what we do about it.
Yeah.
Because it'll totally screw up everything. Lifespans will continue. Population will explode. How are we going to deal with that? So, they're throwing a little bomb into the ant farm, and I said, Jesus, that's it, that's it. And Rick is going to be my my voice in here, just trying to say, this is how I'm going to sell it to you. So, but without that, I don't know if I could have really written it. I have to sort of buy it myself.
Okay. All right. So one more question before we get to The Exorcist. Are you currently? Is there any TV you're watching, movies again that have caught your eye, that have made an impression on you?
I just saw The Accountant again last night. I don't know if you've ever seen that, with Ben Affleck, but it's a pisser of a movie. Um, and just he's very good as this high functioning autistic who's not only a hitman but he's also an accountant. And I mean there are certain parts of it that I say, oh crap, really? And then you buy into it, so that's the kind of movie I enjoy those kind of movies. Denzel Washington's The Equalizer is on heavy rotation on my cable, and I just keep watching the damn thing. He's it borrowed so much from Repairman Jack, especially in the Home Depot at the end. That's interlude at Dwayne's, so but it's well done, and and Denzel can sell anything, Yeah. I haven't seen many new movies. I did enjoy Kingsman. I didn't see Dune. I intend to, but I haven't seen it. No, I haven't seen many new movies, and some of the ones I have seen, I just saw one. I had 90 minutes to kill, and I said, okay, this movie, I Am Lisa, where she turns into a werewolf or something. Horrible. See it. Don't see it. Don't see it. There's a lot of series I started. The Expanse I started, but I just sort of ran out of steam for me. A lot of things run out of steam after 3 seasons or so for me, and they keep going and going and going. Mostly I'm watching British cop shows.
All right.
Right now I'm watching the Brokenwood mysteries. They're just gentle, cozy type of thing. They're nice to watch after dinner. You sit down and you watch it. I watch a lot of cooking shows.
Right. Well, that's great. Did you check out Reacher, the new Reacher show on Amazon?
I enjoyed that very much. He was a lot beefier than the Reacher I had pictured, but the thing is, he is an imposing character. Lee and I have often talked about our Jacks and stuff. And the thing is, my Jack, and his Jack is much more confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
My Jack is more like, let's you and him fight, okay? And and that type of thing. He's more of a Yojimbo type of guy, whereas Reacher goes in and throws people through windows. It's a different approach.
All right. Okay. Well, let's get to what I always call the main event, which in this case is your choice for my favorite horror with, and you wanted to talk about The Exorcist.
Well, I'm just saying, I was talking about cosmic horror and Abrahamic horror. The Exorcist is Abrahamic horror, the epitome of Abrahamic horror. We are targeted by a demon. The actual victim is an innocent child, which is even more heinous than usual. And then, we are really the targets. We are supposed to question everything we believe in because of God is allowing these horrors to happen to this innocent child. And for me, it's I was raised a Catholic. Went to a Jesuit high school. They taught me to question things. I questioned myself right out of the church. But no one is better at indoctrination than the Catholic Church. And, you just don't get over it. You're not a Catholic anymore. You don't go to church. You don't believe in God or any of that stuff. But you see someone, slapping elephant dung on the statue of the Virgin Mary, and you get pissed off. Why are you pissed off? that's just a piece of plaster, and so what they're doing. But you've been conditioned.
Right.
Don't do that. Don't piss on the crucifix. It's why not? Why not? I mean, you want to make a fool out of yourself and do that, do it. But the emotional things are there, and the conditioned responses are there. So I couldn't afford the hardcover at the time. I was in medical school, so I had to wait for the paperback. And I went to Georgetown. I knew the house they were talking about. I had been up and down those stairs too many times after too many drinks on M Street. So everything was very real to me. And I'm sitting there at 1 a.m. because I can't put the damn thing down. And I should be going to bed because I had an early class in the morning. And I'm reading it, and in the book, Reagan didn't come down the stairs, like a spider. She slithered like a snake and crawled around her mother's legs, just at least the way I remember it. And I just remember reading that part, and I just remember sitting there in church, and there's a statue of the Virgin Mary, and there's a snake around her feet, and she's crushing the snake. And I said, holy crap. Bedtime. I just ran to bed. I mean, it just pushed all my buttons. And it's, and the movie, the movie is just, it followed me home and stayed with me for 3 days. It's just like, it's not the type of thing I could leave in the theater. And I mean, unlike The Exorcist, unlike Alien, which frightened the hell out of me, while I was there. I mean, it was really one of the most intense horror movies I've ever seen. Science fiction movies, really. Science fiction horror. But, the Alien is more of a cosmic horror. We mean nothing to that thing.
Right.
Except as a host for its larva. And, so it's not like we're of any value other than as food. So that's much more the cosmic horror type of thing, because you can't explain this thing. You can't reason with it. It has its agenda, and that's it. In The Exorcist, you could talk to the demon. It tried to seduce you. It tried, and it tried to confuse you, and it would use Latin, and it would speak backwards, and all these wonderful things. I mean, and plus the way it was built up in the book and the movie is, it starts just with a bump in the night, and that's an old Cornish saying. It says, from ghosties and goblins and long-legged beasties and things that go bump in the night, good Lord, preserve us. And so it starts with a bump in the night. Remember?
Yeah.
And they go, and it just escalates from there. And every time you approach that door, you're saying, what is on the other side this time? What are you going to do to us now? And, it's just so effective. That was real horror, because of this child is being abused like nothing else. And so, to me, that's the epitome of the horror movie. I've never seen anything. I mean, there are plenty of them that gross you out or make you, say, wow, isn't that great? Even Cabin in the Woods. I mean, it was wonderful, all that Lovecraftian stuff at the end. I said, oh, it's wonderful. But it doesn't follow you home, Once it's over, you walk out of the theater and you leave it behind. But this one, Exorcist, just followed me home. So.
Well, I just rewatched it this weekend. Excuse me. In preparation for this, and the only copy I could find was the extended director's cut. and it's been so long since I saw the
With that
theatrical cut.
stupid face appearing here and there.
I couldn't tell you, aside from that, I couldn't tell you any other things that are different because it's been so long
Well,
since I've seen.
I think the spider, did it have the spider walk?
Yes.
I don't think that was in the original.
But I must confess to a huge hole in my horror credentials. I have never read the book. I've
Well,
always wanted to. I've
it's
just
very close.
never gotten around to it.
It's very close to the movie. I mean, Blatty was the screenwriter and the executive producer, so he had a lot to say. And Friedkin did a great job, you know. But no, it was very faithful to the book. So,
As you say, it's got that slow build with the noises. It starts with just noises in the attic, but you also have, we meet Father Karras, who's losing his faith,
mm-hmm.
and his mother. And yeah, it just escalates and escalates. But when it hits, there are those certain scenes that are graphic and shocking and terrifying. Like a certain thing with a crucifix that Reagan is doing.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone knows the throwing up the pea soup and the head spinning around.
Yeah, but the thing is, and it's in the movie as well as the book, but the thing is, every time there's something like that, she saw that after she had been knocked back and almost unconscious, and she's not sure it really happened.
Right.
And she, I don't know if it was in the movie or in the book, but it says, see what she did to me, your cunting daughter.
Yes.
And then there's when she grabs, the nuts of the psychiatrist.
Yes.
But the light shifts. She's got the light on her one way, and all of a sudden it shifts this way, and then it goes like that. It's just little things like that. It's just really well done. Really well done.
Now, from what I've read, all of the medical stuff, because she goes through a number of medical procedures, of course, because
none of which are necessary now.
Were they portrayed accurately? Do you know?
Yeah.
Can you say?
The pneumoencephalogram is a painful. Good God, that's a painful thing. Now they have MRIs where they can find out so much more just without anything like that. But back then they didn't have that kind of imaging. They only had X-rays. They didn't even have CT scans at that time. I don't really, if I remember correctly, I don't think the CT scan was available back then. So anyway,
and then for some trivia, I don't know if you've heard this. So let's see if I can find this. But apparently, one of the people in one of the medical procedure scenes turned out to be a real life murderer.
That I hadn't heard.
Let's see.
Doesn't really matter. I mean,
no.
It's like some people dying on the set of Wizard of Oz and all that kind of stuff.
Max von Sydow, 44 years old when he made this. Looks, 80? Amazing makeup. Aging him.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
And he'll always be Ming the Merciless to me from the Flash Gordon movie, which I was like, how? He looks twice as old in this as he did in Flash Gordon, and Flash Gordon came out. I'm like, how did they do that? But yeah, I had no idea he was only 44 at the time they made it. And that was all.
Neither did I. I didn't even know who he was. But that's that wonderful scene when he steps in the door and you hear the voice go, Marin. Oh, that's when it's like, oh, really? Really?
So many just chilling moments.
Yeah.
Now, I've never seen the second one. I've heard I never should.
Nah, I did, but don't.
Just recently saw the third one.
It has its moments.
And I enjoyed that. George C. Scott taking over the role of Kinderman. Yeah, and I one of the scenes from number 3 is always on like top 10 lists of most shocking moments, with the hallway scene at the hospital with the nun.
Where she goes across the ceiling?
No, the when she comes running out of the room with the shears behind the nurse.
The one that got me the most was the power's out, I think, during the storm, and they have the statues, and then the lightning flickers and their expressions change.
Yes.
And, it's like, oh, that's good.
Yes. Now, so does the original version, do you know, it starts in Iraq, correct? That's not just something from the extended cut?
No.
And that's our introduction to double checking names.
That's Marin.
And then he's gone after that scene. He's gone for a huge chunk of the movie.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, the book started in Iran or Iraq too, and it was that he realizes the demon has been released. We're not actually sure what his past history with it is, but he realized something has been released, and there's some great images there. He's driving on the road and somebody's waiting for him on the side of the road like a bad debt. It's just great. Just like 3 words, but it's like, oh yeah, he ain't going away.
Somebody last year, the year before, I don't remember how long, it wasn't that long ago, on social media had said something that caused a bit of a stir. And basically they said if you aren't religious, you can't find religious horror scary. Basically what they said. Do you think that's true?
No. I don't believe in vampires, but I can find vampire films scary. I mean,
that's exactly the argument I always make.
I wrote Midnight Mass. I don't believe in vampires, but I thought, I still think, Horror of Dracula was, one of the most effective vampire movies ever. Christopher Lee was just great in that. But there's a lot of things I don't believe in that I can't. You can always say it doesn't have to be a demon possessing somebody. It can be anything possessing someone. And as Marin, would say, the target isn't the child. The target is us.
Yes.
And keep that in mind. It's you can just go with it. I mean, any horror film, you have to go with the flow. I mean, there's so many things you have to. Yeah, I mean, slasher movies. Basically, there's very little supernatural element, only in the fact that you can't kill him and he keeps coming back. But other than that, it's just
Yes.
They bored the hell out of me, really. I'm not a big fan at all. I used to see them all, unfailingly, but then after a while, I'm saying, I've seen this all before. Um, I'm trying to remember the last horror movie I actually went to. I mean, they don't do it for me anymore. I just, I thought, what was that? Oh, I was just talking to somebody about it. Um, that original found footage,
Blair Witch Project.
Blair Witch Project. That was upsetting. It was boring as hell for most of the part, but then towards the end, it got very upsetting. And that final scene with that kid just standing in the corner facing the wall and not moving, I was thinking, holy crap, that is creepy.
Yes.
That is really creepy. And some of the paranormal stuff is creepy because you can't explain that kind of thing. I mean, the paranormal movies, where you see doors closed and while they're sleeping and things like that. Yeah.
The last horror movie I saw in theater, I believe, was the new Candyman. And then the last horror movie I watched, other than The Exorcist for this, was I just watched the new Scream movie.
Was that just like the old Scream?
It is very much like the original, and it's very, very meta. There are so many references to
Yeah, it always was.
not just the early Scream movies, but the movies within the movie, the Stab series. But I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't think it's as good as the Halloween that came out in 2018. And I've never been a huge fan of the Halloween franchise, but I enjoyed the 2008. That sort of made me a bit of a Michael Myers fan. The new one.
There was one, the making of Halloween, which was really interesting. The documentary.
Well, I'm a huge. Oh, please continue.
Just that final tracking shot that went, long tracking shot. They could only do once.
I'm a huge fan of behind the scenes material, which is why I still buy physical home media, and I try to get the special editions that have all the commentary tracks and the documentaries and the behind the scenes stuff. Which is also why I like. Let's pull up a book again. I like when an author has story notes and things.
Oh yeah, I'll never do a memoir or a autobiography, but put all those together, that's as close as you're going to get to my writing life, type of thing. In the 3-volume compendium of F that Borderlands is doing, I do a lot of that. Pretty much every short story. If you take those 3 volumes, you take Quick Fixes, and you take Other Sandboxes, you've got every short piece of fiction I've ever written.
Well, that's after watching The Exorcist again this weekend, I'm like, I have to get a copy of this for myself, and I have to find the copy that has the most special features on it. I want all that behind the scenes stuff. I want all those stories.
You know what had good special features was Conan the Barbarian.
Really?
John Milius's commentary was really great. You always think of him as the guy that did Dirty Harry, and even though he didn't get screen credit for it, he really, it's his movie. He put a lot of thought into that. You think it's just a sword and sorcery thing, but when you listen to his commentary, he put a lot of thought into it. And so, so sometimes those things are really eye openers. I agree. Get as much commentary as you can.
I'll have to find that. Of course, I saw it in the theater. I'm a huge Robert E. Howard fan. Although I'm a Solomon Kane fan. I like Solomon a little more than Conan. But of course, I saw Conan in the theater, watched it when it was on cable, but I've never owned.
Did you
Uh,
ever, what did you think of the Solomon Kane movie?
it was. I didn't hate it. I I think maybe the special effects were a little heavy, but I thought James Purefoy did a good job playing the part. Um, I've only seen it once.
I thought it was a decent movie.
I
Yeah.
own it. I own a copy of it, but I've only watched it once so far. But I've always been a huge fan. I love the stories, the original stories. I have a I have a hardcover omnibus of all the Solomon Kane stuff that Marvel Comics did.
Well, wait a minute. Let me just see if I can do this. I have
Oh yeah, that picture.
I can't get the angle right. There's no light up there.
I saw it. I saw it.
Yeah, I got the Jeff Jones prints from Donald Grant way back when,
Nice.
Uh, so,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I mean, I wasn't a fan, but I was a fan of Jeff Jones. So I bought those.
I don't know. There's just something about the character I really, really enjoyed.
Right, everybody has, characters that, something about a character that appeals to them.
But again, big Conan. I'm actually the wall that I'm looking at right now has a bunch of comic books up on the wall, and directly across from me is an issue of Conan, and the first issue from DC's run of The Shadow.
Now, with Mike Kaluta?
Yes.
Yes, those were great. They were absolutely great.
Beautiful, beautiful artwork.
Yeah.
Kaluta, and then there's some new stuff up there, but I had some of those covers. I was looking at some of the covers I have, and I was like, these are beautiful. I want to see them all the time. So they're hanging up on the wall. They're bagged and boarded and then just stuck up on the wall. They're not framed or anything, nothing fancy. But yeah. But yeah, I have always been a fan of Conan and the work of Robert E. Howard, who also did some cosmic horror.
Oh, for sure.
Always comes back to that.
Yep. Yeah, well, I mean, he was another materialist. As I said, thank you, Lovecraft, for saving us from your rattling chains and moaning spirits. It's if nothing else, I mean, that's a great part of your legacy.
Did you ever see the movie I think it's called The Whole Wide World, with Vincent D'Onofrio playing Robert E. Howard?
I saw parts of it. It was on TV, and they had 5 minutes of film, 6 minutes of commercials, and then 5. So I just turned it off. I mean, I wasn't grabbed that much. I just don't understand, that kind of thing, getting so attached to your mother that that she dies and you can't go on living. I mean, she would want you to go on living.
I always saw it, and I could be completely wrong. I haven't studied it or anything, but I always saw it as he was suicidal, and the only reason he didn't kill himself was because of how it would affect his mother. And so once she was gone, he was free to do it. That was my interpretation.
I never, I read a lot of his letters. I have 2 volumes of his letters between him and Lovecraft.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of words. And that's no exaggeration. It's got to be, those 2 volumes has to be 300,000 words. And I didn't see anything of, any depression or anything like that. They had a lot of arguments about, whether civilization was beneficial or not. But can you imagine how many other stories and novels he could have written if he hadn't been writing to nothing?
All those
Lovecraft.
letters.
And same with Lovecraft. I mean, Lovecraft just wasted so many words on correspondence. But, whatever. Whatever floats your boat. But they were very eloquent letters. I mean, very well thought out. I mean, these guys were thinkers. I mean, you always think of the creator of Conan must have been like, duh.
Yeah.
No, he was the thinker. He had this all thought out.
Well, I mean, you see that kind of thing. I think even today with, say, horror writers. Oh, look at what they write. They must be a sick person. There must be something wrong with them. And the horror writers I know are some of the nicest, kindest people there are.
Oh, I mean, I think maybe we get it out on the page. Have you ever read any of Wrath James White's stuff?
I love Wrath James White's.
Jesus.
Yes, it is. It is extreme.
Yeah, but he's the nicest, sweetest guy.
He is. He's wonderful.
He's a gentle giant. They don't go together.
Yeah. Have you seen? He opened a gym.
No.
And he's posted some videos of him working. It's a boxing gym, and he's posted some videos of him just working with children. And yeah, he's the gentle giant.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
Yeah, I was
he writes some horrendous things.
Sweet guy, but God, the stuff he writes, I can't read it.
No, I'm a fan. I just like such a mix of things.
And I really had trouble reading The Girl Next Door by Dallas Mayer or Jack Ketchum. Mm-hmm. I really had trouble with that. I mean, just like, and Dallas is such a sweet guy. Yeah.
I got to meet him a few years ago at a convention here in Ohio. And he wasn't happy with me because I asked him to sign the skeleton cheerleader copy of The Girl Next Door, which he does not like that cover.
No, I know, but the thing is, I hate the covers of Reprisal and Reborn. But you're at a convention and you have people put it to you to sign. And I say, oh God, I hate this cover. And say, oh, I love it. That's why I bought it. Well, all right, maybe.
Yeah, he was very kind. Mm-hmm. And I actually have 2 copies of that book because I have the leisure copy. But once I saw that skeleton cover, I just had to. So I love those sort of paperbacks from hell, garish covers. They're just so much fun, and I had to have that.
The British outdid the United States for those covers. I mean, the Brits, God, they were garish as could be.
Yeah, love it. Excuse me. All right. So any final words on The Exorcist, the movie or the book? Which?
No, I think I said it. I just think it's, to me, it's the best, most effective horror novel ever written. I think the movie is up there as one of the most effective ever done. But then again, we all come from our own frame of reference, and it's because of my frame of reference, I think, that I feel that way. But I'm not about, people come and say this is the best movie ever. It's all from your own frame of reference. Everybody brings something to a book and to a movie, and from what I bring, this is my opinion. But it's not. You can argue with it, and I'll say, fine, you're right for you. I'm right for me. So,
I'll tell you what. Let's see. This is April 13th. Before the end of April, I will pick up and at the very least start. I'm not going to promise I'll have it finished by the end of the month, but I will at least start The Exorcist before the end of April.
If you started, you will finish it.
Unfortunately, I have a stupid day job I have to go to.
Oh yeah, well those things, yeah.
Cuts into my reading time. Okay. And I don't know if you can make this decision. Is the book better? Is the movie better? Are they just so, their own things and you don't want to compare
Well,
them?
I mean, those two are so close
Okay.
that it's hard to say. For me, I always prefer the book because I can make my own images.
Yes.
But some of the images in there I couldn't have come up with, So those little shifts in light and things like that. I mean, and Reagan, who played Reagan?
Linda Blair?
Linda Blair. Linda Blair did a great job.
Yes.
I mean, she was such a sweet-looking child, and before things started, then they made her into such a horror. That doesn't come through in the book so much. So in that sense, I think the movie was maybe more visually effective. But as for, the crisis of faith and the idea, Father Karras's final realization that he was having trouble believing in supernatural good.
Mm-hmm.
But if he could find evidence of supernatural evil, he could again believe in supernatural good. And he did at the end. There's that look of triumph when he takes the demon into himself and realizes, yes, okay, I win.
I can vanquish this.
And he jumps out the window.
Yes.
So.
All right, great. So, do you have anything you'd like to plug? Is there anything that you're working on you can tell us about?
No. It's no. I mean, I have limited editions coming out of Double Threat and then Double Dose. What else? There's also a limited edition of Dracula's that I wrote with Conrath and Crouch and Strand.
I have to admit I had forgotten that you were one of the authors on there, because that is, like I said, I have all of your stuff basically in two spots, and Dracula's is with my Conrath stuff, and I had forgotten.
It was his idea. Him and Blake came up with the idea.
Love that book.
We wrote it in 6 weeks. And it was the most fun I've had writing a book in my life. we just laughed. I mean, the emails, and we're going to put in the limited edition, we're going to put all the emails as there's 80,000 word novel, and it's going to be like 80,000 words of nice. Emails. And they are hilarious. I mean, Joe is hilarious. Strand is hilarious.
Yep.
We just, and then there was the one-upsmanship as we're writing it, somebody would do something and something gross, and the next person to come along to take over the scene and say, you're doing that? All right, I'm going to do this. And then it would just go, and it became like our game, and it was just fun. Have you read it?
Oh, I love that book.
There was the one thing where it's the scene where the clown has killed somebody and he's playing with the intestines, and someone's watching and saying, he's nodding the intestines, and someone says, "Is that a flamingo?" And when we all read that, that was Joe. And when we all read that, we just said, "Is that where we're going?" Okay. So we really didn't have an idea where we were going to be going there until Joe did that, and it's one of those great. It's just one of those beautiful lines where it doesn't actually tell you what's happening. It's sort of just she's asking a question, and you have to answer it. And when you do answer it, you say, "Holy shit!" So because what do clowns make? They make animal balloons.
Yeah.
Oh my God, with intestines. All right.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely love that book. I think when it came out, of course, I'd read some of your stuff already. I was a Strand fan. I went nuts when I discovered Jeff Strand. Think I'd read some J.A. Conrath, some of the Jack Daniels books. I don't think I'd read any Blake Crouch yet. I am a Blake Crouch fan now, but I think at the time I had not read any of his stuff. But yeah, I was very, very excited to get that. As a matter of fact, I don't normally do digital because I tend to forget that I have it. But I bought that. I got it on digital as soon as I could, even before the paperback was
Yeah, the
available, because
paperback
I
was
wanted to read
later.
it.
Yeah, we first did it digital. Um,
Yeah, and I didn't want to wait, so I grabbed it on digital and read it immediately.
yeah, that was a great experience. But anyway, um, so this would be the first time it's in hardcover, and
Nice.
and I think it's the first time any copy has been signed by all four of us because we're all over the country. Um, so uh, I think it's almost so. I think it's pretty much sold out. I mean, because the Blake's got a big following now. Joe's got a following. I've got a following. Jeff's got a following, and everybody's. There's only 500 of them, so they're they're being snatched up. So
Any upcoming anthologies that you can think of that you have any stories coming out in?
no, I'm pretty much off. I've been off the short stories pretty much. I've been a lot of stuff has been being reprinted, like Attack from the '80s reprinted something, and um, oh I forget. It's just one after another with the reprints. Um, but I found that short stories use up ideas, which I like to use as subplots in the novels.
All right.
So, because you'll find that my novels don't really have a lot of dead space in them. Uh, I don't spend a lot of time describing stuff. I'm moving on with the story, or
Yeah.
I'm following this subplot that I can weave back into the main thing, and so. Um, uh, right now, I mean, my agent has a two novel series out to he's shopping it around, um, which basically involves the disappearance of Atlantic City, and it's very different. I had
Right.
fun with it.
All
Uh,
right.
and so I'm just enjoying retirement. Well, I'm retirement from medicine, but I'm still writing.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
It was a
And
pleasure. It was a
if
pleasure.
you could just hang out for another minute while I do my outro. If you care to, where can people find you on social media? If you'd care to share that.
Um, I'm Real F. Paul Wilson on Facebook, F. Paul Wilson, at F. Paul Wilson on Twitter, and RepairmanJack.com has all you know, the promotional stuff.
All right. I'll have links for those down in the description of this on
Okay.
YouTube. So there you go, folks. F. Paul Wilson, thank you for being here. And for those of you out there, thank you for watching. If you have any comments or questions, put them in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. All that YouTube stuff. You know how it goes. That's all we've got for you. So until next time, folks, read more books.